So I'm very pleased to have Vincent with us from Academic Summer. And Vincent, I don't know much about you, but what I do know is that when you teach, people clap afterwards. So I heard. So can you tell me, is this true?
I I'm a showman. My teaching goes back to the 1970s when things were not as serious as they are today. People were beginning to look at language learning and think it should be fun, it should be unexpected. And it was a great time to be a young teacher, and it's never left me, never left me.
So why do people clap today?
That I don't know, and I think if I questioned it, they probably would stop. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
So tell me, you work at David Game College in London for Academic Summer.
For academic summers, so not for the college, although there's a joint
Mhm.
venture. So yeah, I'm there in July and the first 2 weeks in August. Yeah,
And
if unless they send me somewhere else, but I'm hoping it's David Game College.
okay, so you've got to up your game.
Well, I do, and it's quite an impressive place, as you probably know.
So, what would you say to a parent, say in another country that's thinking of sending their child to taste British education?
I, as a parent, I've got three children. They're now aged 40, 38, 36. I would say if you are in the position where you can afford to send your kids to another country for education, take full advantage of it.
What are the reasons people come to summer school?
Very different, very varied. I've worked in summer schools since the 1970s. Some come just because the parents want to do something for them for the summer. Some come with very clear ideas of their future studies, and some come without really knowing what they're doing. Now, at Academic Summer, we do encourage people to come if they know what they're doing. If they know at the age of 13, 14, 15, 16, they know that they want to be in business. They know that they want to be in language teaching. So we like people to know what they want.
And this is why you have the various get ready for medicine, get ready for law.
This is Helen's idea, and I think it's a very good one. It's very specific, and it takes content and language integrated learning to a new level. It goes beyond just saying that you can learn maths through English. Of course you can, but you can also learn English through maths. And it says, and you can also apply what you're doing. A lot of my life has been in general English teaching, teaching English for no obvious reason except that it's a coming world language. But it has become a world language, and people need to specify, they need to do more. And I think this is what Academic Summer does. It says, Al, if you tell me what your aims are, I will tell you whether or not we can help you meet them. And there's very good reasons why people want to learn a subject through English. And there's no point being the greatest technician, the greatest scientist, if you can't communicate. And we're still developing this awareness, and I'm still developing this awareness. It's a great privilege. I'm working with students at the moment from China, from Italy, from Iran, and they know that English is part of their future.
So tell me a little bit about you, because you have a distinctive British accent.
I have.
Where would you say you're from? It's very
I'm
good
from the
to know.
northwest of England. I'm from Lancashire, northwest of England. I was born in Salford near Manchester back in the 1950s, 1953. Um, I went to a grammar school, then university. And so my accent has probably been toned down, but it still remains. I'm not aware of it. My wife is accent free. Our children are accent free, but I've obviously still retained it.
And you say that you like to make teaching fun. So how do you make teaching fun, particularly at academic summer?
I'm not altogether sure. I mean, I think at academic summer, we engage people. We start the day with an assembly at 8:30 in the morning. Now, 8:30 in the morning is not everybody's best time of the day, especially a teenager. And so it's a warm up for the day. Um, we treat them as young adults. We say, look, if you're 16, you're still a child in the eyes of your teachers and your parents. But to us, you're a young adult. If you're 13, 14, the ceiling is coming down. It's not difficult to engage people who are younger. They haven't had the fun of learning beaten out of them. But when you get in touch with people aged 12, 13, 14, look, they're going through physical changes, um, they're developing young people. So we treat them on a level basis. You know, when they're 13, 14, you can't pretend that everything is fun. It's not. But keep going until you're 16, 17, and you'll see. And we get a great response from people, I must say, a great response.
What skills do students gain from coming on an academic summer camp that go beyond the classroom?
If they come with an open mind,
Yeah.
if they understand what academic summer is all about, an academic summer is not just about teaching you mathematics and geography. It's teaching you to think, to learn, to communicate as a young geographer, young historian, young scientist. And I noticed the first summer we were there, I was sitting having coffee with the lab technicians, with the engineers, and people have their own language. I mean, it's like a dialect. We all know that everybody in this country speaks English, but they speak with a dialect. So I have a dialect. It's mainly vocabulary, it's also grammar, it's a way of expressing it. And you have a sociolect. A sociolect is the language specific to your social group, whichever group you're in. So if you go from a coffee shop to a pub, you change slightly, not the language, but the way that you use language. And we fine tune it to an idiolect. An idiolect is your own individual language. My wife and I went to the same university. We both speak English. Okay, my grammar's better, her pronunciation's better. But we have a different idiolect. She uses words that I don't use, and vice versa. And if students realize that when you're a mathematician, you're using very precise content obligatory language and also content complementary language. When you go from the maths class to the sociology class, you're changing very slightly what you do.
What is your favorite teaching topic at academic summer?
Very good question. I'm not sure that I've got one. What I'll tell you is that a few years ago, during COVID, you remember COVID, we were at Cambridge, we had a limited number of teachers, and I had to say to people, look, I know that you're a business teacher, but can you teach this as well? I know that you're a history teacher. Can you take on politics? Because we've got students who want these subjects, but we can't bring in teachers. And the fascinating thing was that the student feedback was slightly better for our non-specialist subjects. Now, My specialist subjects are English, literature, but I was getting slightly better reviews from the students for my psychology and sociology. I still don't know why. I haven't done the research, but maybe we get too familiar with what we know, and maybe we lose some of the excitement. And when we suddenly have to teach environmental systems and societies, as I've been doing since the International Baccalaureate introduced it 10 years ago, maybe we're putting in a little bit of extra passion.
Learning English is quite difficult, isn't it?
Very difficult indeed.
So, how do you make it easier for your students?
How do you make it easier? Well, you make it accessible. You start not with you as the master of all languages, you start with them. And you start by saying, what do you know? What can you construct? I mean, one of the problems, it seems to me, is that teachers, of course, they know their subject very well, but they don't see it from the perspective of the learner. And so I think you have to build up, you have to turn things on the head. You can't just say, this is everything I know. I'm going to teach it to you. You say, what do you know? What is your capacity? And language is very difficult because language is communication. It's not just syntax and morphology and all the clever things that we know. It's actually expressing yourself. It's communicating your message.
I mean, we talk about return on investment in business. If I was a parent of a child attending summer school, I would want to know what the ROI is. Could you give some kind of input to that?
What we do that I think is unique, at least from what I've seen, we give weekly reports, not an end of course report. We do give an end of course report, but we give a report week by week. And what we do in the report is say, this is what your child has studied. So the teachers do a review. Let's say we're doing history, and we've looked at the difference between historic and historical. So we've approached history from the big story to the human stories. And we've looked in context with the agreement of the students at the 20th century, the Cold War, World War One. This is what we've studied and we've communicated. And this is how your child has performed. And this is how your child could do better. That she or he has engaged fully, but doesn't always express ideas. So, be encouraged. And you would not believe the response that we get. So many parents get in touch with the kids. They phone them on Sunday evening and say, well done. It's the best report I've ever had from you. And your teachers are saying, you're doing great, but don't rely too much on your mobile phone. Trust yourself. And I've actually, when I got involved with Academic Summer, I did everything just to see what it was like. So I would do the Heathrow Airport run, I would go on the trips, and now I'm standing back. And my self-appointed job is to check every single report from however many centres we have, two in London, one in Bristol. I check every report. The teachers send in the reports from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I set aside my time. I do that.
So that keeps the parents informed as to the progress of their children.
If they want to get involved, and we encourage them to get involved.
So, Vincent, you're at the David Game Academic Summer Camp, and what is your role there?
That's a very good question. I started off as principal. And the reason I started off as principal was that Helen, when she set this up, whoa, what, 15, 16 years ago, came to me. I was her teacher trainer. She's almost untrainable, but I managed to train her. to do the diploma. And she kept in touch because I always, as a teacher trainer, say, keep in touch. It's an after sales service. You're not finished when you walk out the door. So she kept in touch. And my role was to be an advisor. And my first advice was forget it. There is no market. We're in the year 2008. We're in a recession. It's going nowhere. But of course, she didn't listen. And so I said I would take on the role of principal because I couldn't find anybody else to do it. I thought it would be easier to find somebody. I said, I'll do it for 1 year, and that's it. And that was 2010, and I'm still doing it. So my role has become increasingly less managerial. You're in business. Um, uh, and I think I was a good manager in the 1980s and 90s when managers were leaders, were explorers. But today, managers, it seems to me, are systems managers. They use technology, artificial intelligence, and I'm wasted, frankly, as a manager. So I teach. I teach as much as I can. I work with fellow teachers. I'm in touch with the students, and I have ideas. I listen to people. So it's partly I'm a figurehead. So, at David Game College, David Game is over 80. He's still there. He's a figurehead. He's got the ideas. He doesn't necessarily get involved in day-to-day management. And I'm the same. I let managers manage. I've got some, well, you met them at Christmas, just before Christmas. You got Deirdre from Lithuania, who's developed into an excellent manager. She's a far better manager today in today's environment than I would be. So my job is to say, Deirdre, you get on with it. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. So my job basically is to be myself, which is a very good way of making sure you're not going to get replaced.
And the children, what is your connection with the students like?
Um, I try to get involved from the start when they arrive. So not so much at David Game because they get together as a group. They're assembled and brought to us. But at one of the other branches, Sidcot, I stay in reception. The kids are dropped off by parents, by taxi, by minibus, and I carry their bags. They don't know who I am. They don't care. They just want to know where the room is. And so I chat with them. So I don't say I'm the principal. As far as they're concerned, I'm just some, I don't know, just some helpful guy. And then you develop it. When you're teaching them. You see them as students. You see their strengths, their weaknesses. I do the morning assembly more and more. So, I see the ones who are there, attentive. They've got their pads, they're making notes. I see the ones who are tired. Of course they're tired. They're kids. Um, so I don't have any time for people who are negative. People who are negative about themselves, about one another. But I do understand that a lot of teaching, unfortunately, has been rather toxic, has been rather negative. Um, and I try to say, don't bring your past experiences into academic summer. We're different. And it does take time. It can take a week, it can take 10 days. Somebody who's been told throughout their entire study life, you're stupid, you're lazy, you're useless. It takes time to say, no, you're not. I wasn't a very good secondary school student at the age of 13, 14, even into 15. And I think I bring that with me. I don't think it was my fault. I don't think it was anybody's fault. I didn't like school. School didn't like me. Simple as that.
So, I mean, you've taught a lot of children. I mean, I've Can
Must be
hardly
hundreds of thousands.
hundreds of thousands of children.
Almost certainly.
Wow, that's a lot of children. Is there one or two children that stand out where you really feel that you've made a connection with them and been able to help them in terms of their education?
Remarkably many. And every summer, we've been doing academic summer since 2010. Um, there hasn't been a summer where we haven't reached out and actually really, really got to people. But there have been so many, it would be unfair, I think, to single them out. But I had an art group this summer. I was teaching at David Game, and I don't know if you saw the art room. Fantastic facilities. And I got this student from France, and she didn't really want to do art. And that was because she'd been told at school that she wasn't talented, she wasn't gifted. Uh, and I said, well, what do you want to paint? She says, what do you mean? I said, what do you actually want to do? She said, I don't know. I thought, look at some of the books. And she came up with the Botticelli, the Birth of Venus. And I said, well, paint that. She said, can I? So try. If it doesn't work. And she painted the most beautiful Botticelli Birth of Venus. And my job as a teacher, she'd come to me and say, I can't get the right color. You know, uh, the green is too dark, the blue is too blue. And I say, well, mix it with white. And so she mixed it with white. And she produced this painting that at the end of 2 weeks, she took away with her. She was so proud of it. And she's going to go back and say to the teachers, you were wrong. My headmaster told me at the age of 14 that I would never get to university because I wasn't a natural academic. And my last job before academic summer was consultant for the University of Cambridge. So, you know, experts are not always right. They might be right. My headmaster could easily have been right. But, he said, you're not a natural academic. So I thought, right, I'm going to make myself a natural academic. And we are academic summer. So
Well, it's really impressive that you've taught so many children. And as somebody who has studied English and literature, I wonder what your impression of literature is today. Are the old classics still as important, or are we moving into an AI era where Shakespeare is no longer of any value?
both points. I mean, if you talk about literature, F. Scott Fitzgerald said that an artist is a man who can hold two fundamentally opposed opinions and still function. And I think that's where we are now. AI for sure is doing it. My son is a copywriter, and he thinks in 2 years he won't be a copywriter because AI will do it. Shakespeare is only still relevant for those who want it to be relevant. AI can produce very, very acceptable literature. But you go back to John Donne, no man is an island entire of itself. And you say to AI, can you put that in other words? And it can. But literature is interactive. I wouldn't say just subjective, but it is interactive. Is there still a place for it? I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know.
So, Vincent, before we leave off, what is your message to parents who are considering sending their child to an academic summer camp?
There are many schools, many excellent schools. I know because as Cambridge consultant, I visited them. Academic summer does put high demands on your students. And if they're not ready, if they need a holiday, send them to a holiday camp in Spain. Give them a holiday, give them a break. My my oldest son is intellectually omnivorous. He will take everything. My daughter needs attention. She needs a bit of a break. My youngest son isn't going to concentrate on anything. And I think know your children. What would be right for one is not right for the other. And they're not going to be happy unless they want to learn. Don't make them feel that they've got to be super smart academics. They don't. So, I mean, at academic summer, the students or the parents or the teachers choose the subjects they study. It's generally a bad idea if the teachers make the choices because they're going to put them into the subjects they're not good at and they're going to force them. If the parents discuss it with the children, and if the child says, I want to do psychology, and the parent says, but why? You've never studied psychology. You're not going to be a psychologist. And the kid says, no, but I want to know what it's about. I want to understand developmental psychology. I want to know about Gestalt. That's the right that's the right reason. Be collaborative, discuss it, and make the decisions. Think, okay, it's only 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, but that's quite an important time for a child. And you want them to be happy. You want them to enjoy learning. And, if we have kick-started learning, which I think we have for some students, that's great. Don't forget our assessment philosophy is personal best. It's not how good you are in other people's opinion, it's how much effort you put into it. And some of the students that I'm giving grade A or A plus to are not great historians, but they buy into it. They want to learn more about it. And they know I'm not going to do this at university. I'm not going to do it at A level. I've enjoyed academic summer, but let's face it, I am a business studies student. That's me. There is no success like failure.
Well, it's all part of your journey in deciding what you're going to do with your future career.
It
And
is.
I
It
think,
is.
yeah, I think academic summer can certainly help you clarify what you want to study later on in life.
It can help you to clarify what you don't want to study. But the kids are getting better and better. Kids are getting more and more independent, more and more self-reliant, and I work increase it. And there are fewer and fewer kids who just don't know what they're doing. There are more and more who say, I don't want to do this. My parents want me to be a businessman. I don't want to be a businessman. It's my job to say, tell
Mm.
your parents you want to be something else.
You're an educator really well affiliated with Cambridge, and you've taught thousands of children. What is your message to a young person who's thinking of coming on a academic summer camp?
If you're sure that you want to try it, come along and throw yourself into it. Don't expect it to be easy because we do put you together with other people. We don't want you just to be with your one or two friends. We want you to be part of a community. Um, and if you're not happy, tell us. Okay, the first couple of days you're not going to be happy. You're missing home, you're missing food, you're missing friends. But by the middle of the first week, you should think, hey, I'm actually quite happy. I mean, we've got good facilities. You probably saw the rooms that the students stayed in. You saw the food. We even get good reviews for the food. So, we don't just use cheap places. We use good international colleges, and they do provide. People are well looked after, and if they're well looked after physically, they'll generally be responsive to being happy. So be positive. Come and be part of it, but be a part of it. You know, d- don't sit back. Be yourself. That's what we want.
And what is the benefits to them and to their parents?
Um, Often much more than they expected. The return on investment, the ROI as we call it is so much more than people expect. Not everybody, but so many people really go away thinking, This has been fantastic." It's like, I've been on school trips. I remember one I went to when I was 15 to Stratford-on-Avon, and it changed my whole approach to study. I knew I wanted to study literature and I needed language, and it can change your life. Or it can just be a very pleasant 3 or 4 weeks. You make friends, which is important, but you make friends of different nationalities because we have a kind of policy of trying to mix the nationalities. You're not going to be with all British, all Russian, all Chinese, all Italian. You're going to meet nationalities that I never met when I was a teenager. You're going to get opinions. You're not going to be told that your opinion is wrong. You're going to be told it's your opinion. You know, express it. Okay, express it courteously, express it with sensitivity to other people. If that's your religion, that's fine. But, when you're explaining your views, explain them to somebody who may have different views. And I mean, kids work hard, so tell them you're going to be doing 4 hours of pretty hard work. And if you're doing the pathways, you're going to be doing engineering at a level that's at university 2 years before you're ready for it. So you are going to work hard. You're going to play in the afternoons. If you're at David Game College, you'll be going to the Tower of London. You'll be going to uh, Bank of England. You'll be going shopping. Why? I don't know, because you've got everything you need. But anyway, and then in the evenings, you're going to get together. You're going to be social. So you're going to sleep. You are going to sleep, but you're going to have nice dreams.
I think some parents see academic summer as a pathway to Oxbridge. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
I would say be realistic. Um, that the education you get, many people say they come back to us later and say, "I'm now at university." And what academic summer did 2 years before was actually a higher level. So it's not a pathway in the sense that our certificate at the end doesn't get you into Oxford or Cambridge. You need A levels or international baccalaureate. You need IELTS. But it shows you if you have the right academic background, and it shows you if you haven't got the right academic background.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Vincent.
Been a pleasure, Al. Been a pleasure.